My name is Stephanie Willoughby, and I'm a family photographer here in the great state of New Jersey. Jersey is full of small towns with big personalities, which is why I want to explore what makes your community special. I'm interested in the stories that your community would tell if it had a voice. This is part 2, Homegrown Hoboken. Today we're exploring Hoboken. We're getting to know Hoboken as the city she is today. Still fun, still steps from the city, still buzzing with that signature busy energy, but Hoboken's grown up, and so are the people that call Hoboken home. With loads of families, Hoboken is the perfect mix of family-friendly by day and local craft brewery by night. Today we're going to get to know some of the folks that set the vibe in this larger-than-life town, and I can't wait to get started. This is Homegrown Hoboken. One of the things that most New Yorkers will brag about is their excellent view of the city. But the truth is, the best view of New York City is actually from the Jersey side. Stop by the Cove or Pier 13 for panoramic city views and a quick selfie. Just be super careful. The Hudson isn't for swimming. I photographed Pam and her family a while back with the arrival of her son. I had no idea at that time that meeting Pam would be like meeting all of Hoboken. Pam's not only an amazing wife and an amazing mom, she's also a highly sought-after realtor here in Hoboken. Today we're going to be chit-chatting about all things Hoboken because I can't wait to know, how much does it cost to live in this gorgeous city by the river?
I'm Pamela Kalman. I am the owner of PKL Properties, and I live and work here in Hoboken out of the Keller Williams office. I'm a young mom, new mom. My family and I live on 15th and Washington Street here.
So what's kind of neat about what you do is that you also live in the same area that you're working within, which is why I feel like you've got so much knowledge to share with us.
Sure.
So I kind of want to, I guess, hit the pavement running, and just talk to you a little bit about what does it cost to live in Hoboken? You know, like we've seen a lot, it's obviously quite developed, it's changed a lot over the years, but if I were looking at like a condo versus a brownstone, can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. So the price points in Hoboken, I would say there's a large range. We have a lot of different type of properties in Hoboken, and the range would probably go from about $400,000 to like $2 million. Okay. And the average price point in Hoboken right now is $750,000. And for a brownstone, you're looking at an average of about 1.5 to 2.5. So on that higher end, and that's depending on if it's renovated and whether it's a one family or a two family. So if you're living there and then renting out a condo below you to a tenant, you can take in, rental income. So there's a lot of different options in Hoboken, which makes it such a great place to look to buy property.
So that's kind of what I would assume a price point would be, and it's definitely on the higher end of most folks' budget. So where do you find that most of your clients are moving to Hoboken from?
It's funny because a lot of people think that we're very expensive, and we are. I don't want to say like Hoboken is inexpensive, but most of the people are moving from Manhattan and also Brooklyn, and when they come here, they're like, I can get all of this for $900,000, and those are my favorite clients, but the price point is still relatively affordable compared to Manhattan and also Brooklyn and other surrounding areas where you can get into the city very quickly. Also, what makes it a really interesting place to purchase is that we're 99% condos, so we have one or two, just a handful of co-ops in town, but it makes it much easier for a buyer to purchase here. You don't have to have as much post-close liquidity. It makes it easier for first-time home buyers. It makes it easier on the mortgage process. So there's other reasons, and there's obviously no board approval with condos, so there's other reasons why it makes it a more attractive place, in my opinion.
At what point in life are the people that you are, typically selling homes to?
We have all different types of people in Hoboken, and ranging from newly graduated, we also have Stevens students in town, all the way until empty nesters. We do have a lot of families and a lot of young professionals living in Hoboken too, because of its proximity to New York City. We've traditionally had the young professionals and families while they're starting a family. We're seeing that the families are staying, they're upgrading, so they're coming, they're meeting here, they're buying their first property here together, they're having their kids there, then they're moving to the second property, they're having the second child there, and then sometimes moving to the suburbs, and sometimes now moving into these larger 3 and 4 bedroom condos or the brownstones so that they can stay here longer. And then lastly, we're seeing an influx of empty nesters. So we call it right sizing because it's not inexpensive, and so it's not necessarily downsizing, although it's probably downsizing in size. Mm-hmm. I think it's been great because it's a lot of grandparents who have kids who either live in town or that live in the city, or people who lived in Manhattan and always wanted to be close to everything that Manhattan has to offer, but also want to be close to their families that are living in New Jersey. And the benefit of living in Hoboken is that you don't actually have to cross a river to get to the rest of New Jersey. So that's kind of fun.
I feel like there's so much of New Jersey to love, but
I agree.
My job, so yeah.
I agree. I'd rather go out to New Jersey than out the other way. So.
I feel the same way. I think, and one of the things we strive to do with HomeGrown is really to talk about how we have these thoughts of these towns and what they are. Hoboken certainly has a reputation for, I think it's actually 2 reputations. One is this sort of like frat boy culture that I think most people sort of associate if you came through New York and Hoboken in, the 90s, early 2000s. And then there's this sort of old school perception, right? Where it's just these families that maybe came here, 100 years ago, and then that family still maybe owns their property, or they've had kids and those kids have had kids and they've grown up in Hoboken. Are you seeing more of a merger of that? Because what you're explaining sort of sounds a little bit like that. Like Hoboken is still that old school, like family togetherness, but then there's of course an influx of new people too. Do you find that with your families and neighbors here?
Yes, definitely. So I always say one of the cool things about Hoboken is we have a lot of old and new. We have historic preservation, which has been great. If you look in all of Hoboken, in the middle, you can only build 5 stories. Now, what's great about that is that's keeping a lot of views for family. It's keeping a lot of sun for people that are living in the area, and it's keeping the population manageable versus in other towns and cities where they're letting people, build, high rises everywhere. We're not doing that, so we're really keeping it. It's a city with a town feel, which is nice. And then in the respect of the old and the new, we still have, all of the great Italian restaurants and pizza places. And then we have new restaurants like Antique Bakery and also Pier 13, which is really nice to go on a gorgeous day like this.
Yes, I'm very excited. We're headed to Pier 13 a little bit later.
That's how I'm ending my day.
We'll see you there. I love that. I love your enthusiasm about the town that you're in. And I also love that you seem to understand the culture because you're also a part of the culture of Hoboken. If you had to describe Hoboken in maybe 5 different words or phrases, how would you describe Hoboken for somebody who hasn't been here before?
Okay, so the first I would say is urban suburban. I'd also describe it as old and new, which we kind of touched upon, and that goes from the types of properties we have. We have some old character next to new condos, which is really cool. Views, there's so many people that are getting fantastic views, and if you're not from your home, you can always walk right down to the waterfront. Community, we've got a great community here. There's people that really care about the safety and the cleanliness and the togetherness. And lastly, I would say Washington Street. It's really iconic.
Pam, thank you so much for having us today.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
What do you think? Are you ready to move? The real estate market here in Hoboken is hot. This we might have been able to guess. But with all of these cool shops and eateries, you can move here and potentially never move again. So that's worth it, right? I'm so excited to visit Attain Med Spa. This isn't just any spa. This is a spa with amazing services like hair restoration, Botox, plasma facials. Are you with me? Are you daydreaming about all the services that you could have done here? Good. Me too. Let's go check it out. Why don't we start with you introducing yourself to us and telling us a little bit about your business?
I'm Lauren Benmer, and we just opened up a teen med spa. And I moved here from New York, and I was used to doing all my treatments in New York, my Botox, my filler, facials, and I had a home base in a lot of different ways. And coming to Hoboken, I loved this very supportive community. It's so cool. They call it like the sixth borough because it's so close to Manhattan, and a lot of people live here, actually work or used to live in Manhattan. So when I moved here, I thought it'd be really cool to kind of bring something that I've been missing and wanting for myself here. And I was so lucky with the audience here. Everyone was really interested in having that kind of home space every day med spa, if you will, where the treatments won't take a whole paycheck, won't take a whole day. They could all be done in an hour or less, which is really important because the modern day beauty regimen is not where you can sit in Elizabeth Arden all day. You actually have to go back to work, or maybe you're picking up the kids or doing something else for yourself. So I kind of conceived all this to where it's 1 hour or less.
I really love that philosophy because I feel like everybody's, especially in a culture like Hoboken, right? Because we've got a lot of young families,
Absolutely.
young moms, young dads, and then other generational people as well. But nobody across the board, regardless of your age, has like a ton of time on their hands.
I know, it's true. Everything is so scheduled, and what I noticed even in the building that we're in with all these, there's a ton of kid drop-off studios, right? If they want to learn jujitsu or take an art class or coding, there's also a bunch of gyms in this building. So I was thinking, okay, mom and dads or whomever, they're already coming into this building. They've allotted X amount of time. How could I enhance that time? How could I add on to that me time, that break, and give them something accessible and amazing that's going to make them feel better? And also, it's almost like this building provides babysitting, right? So they can do their facial and their Botox and their filler, anything that they're doing while having their children cared for at a place that they would enjoy.
Right.
So it all just kind of came together perfectly.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a full service, right? So
For sure.
You've got all the bases covered here. So one of the things that struck me as interesting about a teen med spa is that you have a business here that I think a lot of people don't necessarily talk about the services that they receive. I also think it's really hard to talk to like your dermatologist, for instance, and maybe admit that like you are looking for something else. Like, what do we do about anti-aging, or what are we doing towards our health goals, et cetera?
Absolutely.
So do you find that like a lot of people are opening up to you about the services that they need?
I think, well, for starters, absolutely. But it's also culturally, it's becoming much more accepted and understood and even expected to do more to take care of yourself.
So I think it's interesting that you took this philosophy you're new to Hoboken, is that right? Brand new to Hoboken. You just moved here. It's not been a year. It's not even been 6 months, I don't think.
I know.
Maybe around
We're
6
coming
months.
in hot.
How do you feel Hoboken, how do you feel like the culture of Hoboken has influenced your business?
Everybody's very warm, very friendly. I've noticed that when they see people starting something, a new business, a new idea, a new member of the community, they instantly want to support. I almost feel like people move here because or a lot of them have lived in Manhattan and lived this very fast-paced, kind of cut-off lifestyle, right? I lived in New York for 17 years. I have kids that I had in New York for 17 years. I would know the moms in my circle, but even getting into an elevator, nobody made eye contact. And then you move out here and people want to say hello to you and know who you are and get to know your kids.
Is this the like Jersey you pictured before you ever got here?
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like it's really its own world here because you have people coming from all different places, all different cultures, and everyone just kind of comes together. And again, I think also being close to New York, you kind of see a lot of the trends and tips or things that are coming out of New York, but at the same time, nobody wants us to become Manhattan.
Right.
You know, they want to protect the integrity of what is Hoboken, and that I really enjoy.
I feel like you bring up a really good point about protecting what's here and also like growing, because Hoboken is where we are in the Monroe building was not a super developed place before.
No, from what I understand, not at all. And there's new development going, even as we speak, like 4,000 units and this and that everywhere.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, Lauren, is that you don't just have women coming to your business, is that right?
I have men and women and all different ages coming. And that's, again, part of that like me time, those social media platforms. It does not matter your age, your race, your orientation, it does not matter. People want to take better care of themselves, and people are open to learning ways that you can do that.
I feel like everybody is, I think to your point, really thinking about their health, taking that more seriously, and also like feeling good about themselves. Like it is an era where we get to kind of express that, and
Absolutely.
There's so much more of us just on video and photographed, and
Absolutely.
so yeah.
I mean, just in a day, what do they say, that on average people take at least 2 pictures of themselves a day? People want to feel ready all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to have something relevant and available and sustainable for everybody. And again, not a whole day or a whole paycheck.
You being new to Hoboken,
Yes.
Are there any words that you could give us that would sort of describe Hoboken in your eyes?
Oh my gosh, that is proud. Everyone here has such tremendous pride in their city, in their community. There's just such a beautiful sense of community here. People are very active. The other thing is people here are very vocal. So if they see a park that needs to be fixed, if they see something that isn't in the best interest of their kids or the community at large, people really rally. There is such a tremendous amount of pride here. People really love Hoboken. I mean, you go to any of these street festivals or stores here, there are so many Hoboken t-shirts and mugs. And even the people that live here walk around with their Hoboken stuff. So, I mean, it's really nice to be in a place that people are really proud of and want to protect and see grow. And it's just a really lovely place, not to just live and have a business, but to have a family in.
I love that, Lauren. It's been so
Thank
great
you.
talking to you. Thanks for having us today.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much to you guys as well.
I feel like Attain wants us to live our best life by rejuvenating our self-care routine. Any place whose slogan is, succeed in achieving what one has worked for and desired, can make it on my short list of favorite places to visit. I heard about Pier 13 from a friend of mine who found them on Instagram and then demanded that we get there as soon as humanly possible. There's a lot to love about this place. Drinks, cool people on a literal pier, views of the city. Side note, why did I never think to put a bar on a pier? This is the way I remembered Hoboken when I lived here in my 20s, except with a few more little ones and a whole lot more social media. Oh, Hoboken, you are one fun city. Bookstores and specialty shops, bands and bars, museums and cupcakes. Hoboken has a little something for everyone, and it's almost in its own renaissance of sorts. The vibe of this town is found in its mix of history, coupled with some small businesses who are reshaping the way we see and play in Hoboken. It's my hope that Hoboken can hold on to that balance that makes it so special. We've learned so much about this historic city by the water. There's so much greatness in this place, so many small businesses and people that are really changing the culture of Hoboken. Hoboken is still fun and outgoing and beautiful, but it's more than that too. It's also family friendly and a little bit more grown up. So when you're here, please visit the friends that we made here today. After all, they're self-made and homegrown. You can find HomeGrown on TAPintoTV or on Instagram at HomeGrownNJ. We'd love to hear about your small town and what makes it great. For HomeGrown, I'm Stephanie Willoughby. We'll see you next time.